Okay, hello, my pride and joy, and thank you for being here again on A Life to Roar. I know it says roaring like lions. I had to redo my Zoom and it went reverted back to the old sign. Um, so I've got to find the new one to put in there. Our guest speaker today is AC Wiley, and he is going to talk about 5 relationships that leaders understand if they are going to be successful. And we all want to be successful. So why don't you tell us about yourself first a little bit, and then we'll get into what the 5 relationships are.
Absolutely. I am a recently retired former lieutenant colonel from the United States Army. I, when you retire, you're actually almost obligated to say that first. Um, I'm a father, I'm a husband, not in that order, um, martial artist, and working on building a speaking and coaching practice. And through all of these various things, I'm an ordained minister, I'm a an amateur magician. And and I've found that they're all just pointing to that exact same thing of building that relationship and having that relationship. That's and I'm glad that we've had the opportunity to work on ours as well. This is I love
Yeah,
this.
I do too. Podcasts are so much fun. You
Yes,
get to know
ma'am.
your guests and you get to know your audience, but gosh, we just learned so much, and I love it because I know what you do is bring value to people, and that's what my podcast is all about, is bringing value to people. I've got a 6 week course this starting on the 24th. I have another one starting on the 27th. It still has a few spots open on it. And it's about learning to find your purpose in life. Maybe you've been going through life, you've been doing this job or whatever, and it's like, I just feel like I'm meant to do something else, or this is not what I'm happy at doing. So we go through the very foundations of what it means, and it is faith based. So if you don't want any of the faith stuff, then don't sign up. But if that doesn't bother you, or if you do want that, have a good solid grounding, then that's what we cover, and it's great. We're going through the whole hour, plus you get another one-on-one time with me, and I'm always able to answer questions and stuff along the way. But yeah, just getting you on that good foundation. It's called Finding Your Me. And
Oh,
just get a hold of me on Facebook. Right now my website's getting redone, so it's not available, but you can find me on Writers to Readers on Facebook, or LS Kirkpatrick. But AC Wiley, let's talk about those 5 relationships.
all
And
right.
do you have all 5 numbered, or do they kind of intermingle with each other?
They so they kind of intermingle. They're more of a set of systems, really. And I review, I talk about that a little bit. See, when it was 2008. Uh, I was a captain in the United States Army. I was a company commander. I had just gotten a black belt in a fourth system, and I was a pilot, married to a beautiful woman, still married to that beautiful woman, with a amazing son and a brand new baby daughter.
Ah,
And
congratulations.
I was it's 2008, and I was on top of the world. I was invincible. I was a superhero. It was, I was in the best shape of my life. All of these amazing things happened, and I was leading. I was doing what the Army has officers do. We lead. Um, and the Army taught me how to do it. I learned and I applied that. And when we deployed to Iraq that time, I ended up, unbeknownst to how we got it, uh, with a massive infection that almost killed me. Went up my brain, into my heart, down my leg, kidneys, liver, all getting ready to shut down. Didn't even know what was happening or what happened. Through all of that, ended up having a bunch of surgeries, medevaced out of theater, taken out of that role, and really was no longer able to function at that level. Um, because the Army was very, very generous and allowed me to stay in and do other jobs. And I've made a difference there. But as an officer, still was a leader. But I wasn't going to be able to lead the way that I used to. I had to learn a new way to lead. And that is where the importance of relationships finally popped in. Yeah, I couldn't lead through direction. I couldn't lead through, being upfront. I had to lead through relationships. And over the last probably 14 years now, I've worked on my education, worked on different critical thinking methods. And what I've found is 5 relationships that every leader needs to actually work through. And they're really relational systems, they're types of relationships. And the very first one that leaders, and when I'm talking leaders, I'm talking somebody who's either in charge of an organization or influencing other people. And if you're not influencing other people, you're leading yourself. You're making your own decisions. So this is important for even people to apply to their own lives if they're not in a leadership position. But that relationship that each person has with information. Wait, what? Information? We're talking people, but we'll get to people. Your relationship with information, understanding how you think, what you think, understanding your cognitive biases, your filters, the things that, as you get new information about any situation or you're learning things, how you apply that and change your behavior or change your perspective. And a lot of us don't have a good relationship with information. We believe what we believe, we know what we know, and dang the consequences, that's what I'm sticking with. And we can kind of predict what's going to happen when you maintain that level of relationship. But if you begin pouring into that relationship, and the reason I love to call these relationships is because when we're talking interpersonal relationships, everybody's investing. And when you focus on the relationship, on building it, it gets stronger and everything benefits. So for working on that relationship with information, which you can go through understanding more logic, understanding how to apply that. Again, your cognitive filters and working through those. But once you understand that, now you can start working on that second relationship, your relationship with time. But still not people? No, still not people. Because once you understand how to work through your cognitive biases and things, then you can start understanding your relationship with time. And I look at it from present, past, and future in that order. Because we live in the present, so we have to understand how to respond to situations as they're coming at us. We need to be prepared for that. We need to be able to accept our circumstances for what they are for now in order to be able to move out of them. And when we're able to work on that part of that relationship, then we can start looking at, all right, why am I the way I am? That's when we start looking at our past. I believe firmly that you can change the past. You can go back in time. But you can't really do back to the future stuff yet. I think we can at some point in time. I'm hopeful. But if we can go back and look at situations and reframe them and learn more from them, then we change what the past means. And by changing what the past means to us, we change the impact. And by changing the impact, we change the past. And if we can accept our present and change our framing on the past, then we're in a fantastic place to build our future. And one of the things that my coaching practice does a lot of is helping people through building their goals, setting their goals. And we use the very, very common SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant to your particular life, and time-based. And that there's nothing new there. But a lot of people found that when they're setting a goal, they break it down and it's so big, they're like, you know what? Never mind. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you've got a goal so big, I teach you, move that up to what the Army calls an objective. Now it's a bigger thing that you break into smaller goals. And then when you got those smaller goals, which are the conditions you need to make that objective happen, then you can set your actions. And when something gets too big, just break it down and move it up a notch. That's how we have our approach to the future. So when you have your relationship with information and your relationship with time, now you can finally start working on your relationship with yourself. Still not other people. Because if you don't, once you figured out your biases and you figure out what's in the past and where you're going, now you understand ah, this is what makes me tick. There's so many measurements out there that I love to use: the Myers-Briggs, DISC, Enneagram, and any number of them. In my book, Lobsters Guide to Herding Penguins, I talk about something I've relabeled as the Traveler's Hexagram, which is, yeah, the character that you play at any point in time. You're a youth, a parent, a warrior, a scholar, a regent, or an artisan. And each of those has different energies to it, but we're all of them at the same time. Sometimes we might be a little bit more of one than the other. But when you finally have built that relationship with yourself, understanding yourself, accepting yourself, and cheering for yourself, you've got to support yourself. Now we can finally start working on our relationship with other people. That is our relationship with our family, with our friends, with our neighbor, with the people we work for, the people we work with, uh, our bosses. And when we're talking all of these things, by the way, and I've got one more relationship style to talk about. Uh, a relationship exists, by the way, anywhere that there's two things, and it's usually you and something else or someone else. And anywhere that you got two relationships, there are two things, person A, person B, or person A and thing B, there is a mutual flow of influence going both ways. One of them is going to be probably stronger than the other. And if whichever one is stronger is leading the other, it's just how that works. Leadership is influence, and everybody in a relationship is leading, or at least mutually leading. Now, that's fantastic when we're talking people, but that's important when we get to the last relationship. I want to make sure we hit that. But a relationship with other people, that includes those leadership things. And when we start working on our relationship with other people, are focusing on them, realizing that they're the star of the show, not us, that makes everything work. A big thing I believe in is every time you meet somebody new, uh, treat them like they're the secret star of the show. They don't even know it yet. Without giving away any plot, people that have watched the movie The Usual Suspects, great movie. I call it the Kaiser Soze moment.
Yes.
And I'm going to leave it at that. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. If you have watched it, you already know. Don't Google it. You're going to ruin it. Just watch it and enjoy. But if you then you go back and watch it, then you pay attention. You're like, huh. So I call that a Kaiser Soze moment. And treat everybody you meet like they're the secret star of the show so you can pay attention. Now, we've worked through our relationships with information, with time, with ourselves, and now with other people. Now that opens up our ability to change our relationships with everything else, or what I call navigation, navigating the world. That's our relationship with our job, our relationship with school, our relationship with our car, our relationship with alcohol, our relationship with food, our relationship with fitness, all of these other things. Once we've worked on our relationships and improved those other ones, we can now navigate everything. And I have it spelled out whenever we're talking about relationships. It's on. ITSON. Information, time, self, others, and navigation. And now I talked about a little bit of those relationship being the two different flows of influence. As it turns out, if I have that relationship with alcohol, just an example, it could be food, it could be things, buying shoes, whatever. If that thing is influencing my behavior more than I am enjoying it, as in I'm doing a thing because of that, then bad news is you're being led by a beer can. You're being led by a pair of sneakers. And when people come to realize, wait a minute, I'm being led by that's a painful situation. So those are the 5 relationships that every leader, and I'd say everybody, needs to come to grips with and be able to wrap their arms around in order to get their goals, to perform at the most. And the best thing about it, you don't have to perfect any of them. It's a momentum thing. Once you start one wheel turning, it starts hitting the other one. And then when you got two turning, it multiplies. And once it just keeps, as long as we're moving forward, we're moving towards our goals.
I love that.
So
I'm going to
those are those five
recap it real
relationships.
quick. So sorry
All
to
right.
interrupt. So we have relationship with information. Then we have relationship with time, relationship with yourself, relationship with others, and relationship with navigation, which it's on. Information, time, self, others, navigation. That's pretty genius, I think, because I definitely see how they all work together and how one builds on top of the other, and they're all going on all at the same time. We're always learning. We've always got time. We're always with ourselves. They're almost always around others. And I like that you mentioned you treat them as they're the secret star of the show without them even realizing it. People feel very valued at that point, and it doesn't take much. Just listen to them, hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
One of the things that's real easy for us to do, I know I've done it, is someone's talking about something that's happening to them, and you're like, oh, hey, that happened to me too, and this is what happened. Sometimes we don't share our stories. We just listen to them and their story and what's going on, and then wait for them to either ask us or for them to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe it's not as bad as I thought it was, and at that point, talk with them. But yeah, that's a really good thing. And then navigation is like, yeah, all of these things pour into what you're doing all the time. I like that you said when something, you're going to have to say it again, when something is leading you and you realize that you're not the leader of it. Maybe expand on that just a little bit more.
All right. A lot of times we have, I have my own vices. I have the things that I particularly enjoy. Um, and I have some virtues, I'm sure. I just don't know what they are right now. But when when something's either pushing you towards your goals or pulling you away from them, nothing ever keeps you in place. Time keeps moving forward, life keeps moving forward, and so do your goals. And if you're standing in one place, they're moving away from you. And if you're at least moving towards them, you're maintaining a distance, and that's good. And things that get in the way, things that, and it's, and I'm not anti hardly anything. Um, if it results in a personal choice, it doesn't hurt somebody else's choices. Um, but if maybe that thing isn't the best for you, it's not pushing you closer to your goals. If it's even holding you in place, it's pulling you away from the goals because they're running away from you. And therefore, uh, it is making a decision for you instead of you making a decision how to enjoy it. And
Yeah.
in anytime we have sort of relationships, all of these have kind of subsystems, sub processes. I believe firmly that uh, every relationship goes through stages of acknowledging, understanding, accepting, expressing, and then celebrating. And that's a lot with ourselves too. And sometimes the and you mentioned the if people just want to be heard or want to have their story. The best thing, the worst thing that you can ever do to another human being is refuse to acknowledge their humanity, refuse to acknowledge their existence. Therefore, yeah, you can make such a difference with somebody just by giving them the "How we doing today?" Somebody at the Walmart counter, at the store counter, "How you going? How you doing today?" "I'm all right." "You sure? You don't sound like." When you actually start having a conversation, people are like, "Wait, you actually care?" "I wouldn't have asked if I didn't." And we're so used to people not caring and just moving on that the impact you will have on another person just acknowledging them and seeking to understand it, it's it will change the world entirely by itself, just that little relationship.
Yeah, definitely. This is, it reminds, I was just in a book launch on Saturday. Chip Baker does these books. They're called The Influence of Impact. This is volume number 6. And I think there's 3 of us that wrote in there. We didn't necessarily write about someone specifically, but we wrote on what you're saying. is you influence people just by being around them, holding a door open for somebody, smiling at somebody, like you said, asking how they really are and meaning it. And it's really a beautiful thing, which I know that sounds like a really old 70s term or whatever, but it is beautiful to see somebody realize that you're actually caring about them. And sometimes it's nice that we hear somebody actually care about us. Everybody needs to be fed good things, and we need to feed them, and it doesn't take anything away from us. You know, the one thing I say again and again, I put in my books, is you have great value in you. You are worthy, you are enough, and you never lose that value. Just by smiling to somebody, you've made their day. Now they've poured back into you. You don't lose your value just because you give it away. It's not like you're pouring water out of a big bowl in smaller bowls. Your value is always there. And I don't know how it works, but every time you increase somebody else's value, you get so much more value back. You never can run out. Even if you never give it away, you still have it in there with you. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's really good for people to understand and remember that. And it really doesn't take that much. I'm going to tell you a story.
Please.
My husband, when we first got married, he's like, because I just talk to anybody. We're standing in line, I'm talking to the person next to me, or the one in the line next door, or whatever you call it. And he goes, how can you just start talking to people? Because he never grew up around that. He wasn't raised that way. And it's like, they're just people like you and I. And sometimes it's kind of boring standing in line, or whatever. And I said, people are interesting. People are so interesting. And it probably took about 10 years. And I watched him just introduce himself to somebody. I watched him talk to the clerk at the checkout stand and really talk with them. And it's like, wow, I influenced him to open up. But he found out it's not a scary thing. I think it was something that, I don't know, was frowned on or something. I don't know really what it was, but he found out that there's value in just chatting with somebody, whether you see him again or not. There's just value in breaking up the day from the monotonous humdrum and just sharing a moment and enjoying being alive.
We all have 6 needs. I love talking about those too, and one of them is connection. Every human being needs to have some connection, some shared experience with another living being. People that really, really, really don't like dealing with other people love animals. I love animals. And some people, plants, nobody, I have yet to hear of any case where a human being thrives in isolation, in total isolation.
Yeah.
That's why one of the most cruel punishments that we can give people in our penal systems is solitary confinement. And it's usually very, very, in a civilized country that even uses it, it's very controlled. So that's because of the massive impact that we have when we connect with other people or anything.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I know we've got just a few minutes here. So how do people get a hold of you?
So you can follow me on TikTok. It's at AC Wiley WLS, stands for Wiley Leadership Solutions, but AC Wiley WLS. You can also find me on Facebook at that exact same place, AC Wiley WLS, or Christopher AC Wiley PhD. That's a page on there. And I can send you my LinkedIn information to hunt me down there. I am also, you can get a hold of me through kiteandkeysolutions.com. That's all one word, kite, as in the guy that founded its last name's Franklin. So think Ben Franklin, kiteandkeysolutions.com. I'm one of the executive coaches there, and I'm also the executive vice president for team events with them. Can go on there, go to the Meet Our Team. can either send an email, go, hey, would like to get in contact with some more coaching, and we probably have somebody that's going to be better suited for folks than just me because we have an entire team of amazing people there. But
Awesome.
those are three critical ways. You can either listen to me or you can get to talk to me that way.
Oh, that's great. And for those who haven't worked with AC Wiley, he's just wonderful to talk to. We spent a lot of our
You make
time
it easy.
before this show talking, probably more than we should have, but that's okay. Got to get that in too. So thank you so much for being here. I know that when somebody starts working with you, they're going to really gain a lot from you and get going to where they're pushing forward or pulling someone forward with them. Because that's what we need to do is just bring people along and help each other get going where they need to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.